Well, blessings, everybody, and welcome back to Luke Part 1. This is Lesson 7, the first video within this lesson. We're looking at Luke chapter 10 in this week's lesson, so make sure that you read the scripture, refresh your memory about what we examined. In this passage, we see that Jesus appoints the 70, or some translations say the 72. If you use the English Standard Version, you'll see that they say 72. We spent quite a bit of time in the class that's discussing why one says 71, one says 72. We talked about different versions of the Bible, different translations, the King James, New American Standard, things like that. And so often you'll run into maybe not often, but from time to time, you'll run into things where there'll be different interpretations. So was there 70 or there's 72? I call it the 70 because that's what you see within the King James and the New American Standard. Could have been something as simple that Jesus sent out 70 and then sent 2 later. A lot of times it's just the way that the translations within the various versions, what they base it upon. Remember this, that we have none of the original letters that were written. We don't have any, for instance, of Paul's original letters. And so anyway, I'm going to call it the 70. Jesus instructed them in the similar way that he instructed the 12 that we've seen earlier. And he told them this, that the harvest is great, but the laborers are few. And he says, I'm doing this. I'm sending you out like lambs among the wolves. And he told them, as I said, the instructions that he gave them, that you're to carry no money belt, no bag, no shoes. That doesn't mean they would go barefooted. No, what it means is don't carry extra supplies or anything. And he says, greet no one on the way. When you say, well, that sounds rather rude, does it not? Well, no, not really. What he's saying is don't get distracted in the way that you would within that culture. If they'd greet somebody or something, they would be expected maybe to eat a meal with them, hang out with them a day or two. He says, no, focus upon what you're doing and where you're going. Personally, I think that gives us some insight also into how they did this, that Jesus sent them out 2 by 2, likely to a particular place, a particular city. They knew the destination they were going to. So he said, don't be distracted by anything. Go. He didn't mean be rude. Just go from here, go there. He says, when you enter the place, speak peace to the house that you enter in, and stay there if they receive you, if they receive that peace. He also told in other passages that if they reject you, if they reject your peace, then your peace will come back to you. And I think it's a really good thing because we spoke about it last week, but also in this week's lesson. Quite often when we share the gospel, if somebody rejects it, we feel rejected in the midst of it. And Jesus says, no, don't worry about that. They haven't rejected you. They've rejected me, and they've rejected the one who sent me, the Father. That peace will come back upon you. The peace of the Lord will come back. And he says, if a city receives you, eat what is set before you. So you eat and drink what's set before you. He was letting them know, don't worry about the legal laws and all this kind of stuff. Just eat whatever it is. I think that's a good word for us today, too. He said, preach the kingdom, heal the sick. If a city rejects you, shake the dust off your feet. And do this publicly. Do it on the city's limits right there. Do it at the city square, wherever. And it's a protest and a testimony against them because they have rejected the fact that the kingdom came near to them. And we really don't do that. Now, we're not to do this in a hateful kind of way, but we're to understand if somebody rejects you, keep praying. Perhaps you are the one that's plowing the fallow ground. Perhaps you are the one that's planting the seed. Perhaps you will be the one that will experience the harvest right there. But the idea being that you're letting them know that we're not even going to take the dust of your rejection with us. And then he proclaimed some things. He said it will be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah than it will be for the cities. And he listed a couple of cities there that reject. Well, the 70 go out. They return with tremendous joy. And they return with joy because they said, the demons are even subject to us in your name. And Jesus says, that's great, that's wonderful, but do this. Don't rejoice in that. Rejoice in the fact that your name is written in heaven. And in the class times, we talked about how that we see in the scripture that there's books and books in heaven. And one of those is a Lamb's book of life. He says, your name is written in that. What did Jesus do next? He rejoiced. And the structure of the language right there is the idea that he's dancing and he's just rejoicing, having a hoop and hollering time. And it's because that God had revealed these hidden things to infants. He didn't use the wise and intelligent. You did some cross-referencing from, I think, 1 Corinthians and Romans speaks of this too, that God revealed to those that weren't wise and intelligent these magnificent truths of the kingdom. And then Jesus says the Son reveals it to who he wills. He does the same thing to us today. Keep pressing on. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.